Shalum. Shalom and welcome. Welcome to White Rose Family Channel. My name is Symmanayah if you're tuning in for the first time, and these messages are for those who seek to do the will of the Almighty Creator, the Almighty Father, Yahuah, who manifests His word before us in the name of Yahusha. Why? So when we say the name Yahusha, we identify the plan that the Almighty Father laid out for us to be redeemed as a result of the fall of man, as a result of the actions of Adam and Eve. My brothers and sisters, end times are here. And I open up and I say often that chaos, civil unrest, economic uncertainty, pandemics, disease, lawlessness, all of these things are being magnified before us. And many people are searching all across the planet or the world, searching for answers. Some are tired of searching, so they just rest with whatever makes them feel good or just out of exhaustion. I want to say to you, if you tune in to the messages I present, it brings emphasis on recognizing the realities of what's written in scriptures. What does that look like? What are our expectations, and what influences contribute towards our actions that draw us closer to the one that gives us life, breath, a heartbeat? In this segment of the series In Line, since there is so much to learn and so much to do in the days ahead, In Line presents tidbits, step-by-step things that can help lighten the burden of coping with the challenges of today. The message, as I stated, is to Yashar'al, commonly known by many as Israel. And I'm talking about true Yashar'al, a people, not a land. And in that set-apart nation, in that set-apart nation, we will discover 12 tribes and a great mixed multitude made one by Yahusha. And even though it would be a multitude, a mixed multitude, with the 12 tribes, the 144,000, these numbers would only add up to be a remnant when you compare it to the world population. So if someone disputes the fact that I'm saying a great mixed multitude, speaking of Revelation's 7th chapter, make no mistake, in order for the scriptures to be connected whole is to identify how it can say a remnant and at the same time say a multitude. And in my inquiry, in my prayer, I believe that the Spirit of the Almighty Father made clear that it will be a great number from the four corners of the earth that will be gathered. And I believe he said, though these numbers will be large, in contrast to the entire world population, it will be a remnant. With that said, let's get into this segment of the series In Line. I'm going to present a case to you as it relates to Prodigal Son, a parable mentioned in the scriptures. And I'm going to share with you how in these final days we will see something similar to the story of the prodigal son. Why? For there are lessons to be learned in order to gain strength to navigate through these end times. I want to just address the words, do you, and I will do me. Do you, and I will do me, as well as my ministry. My brothers and sisters, there are teachers among us, spiritual influencers, pastors, maybe some bishops and priests, deacons. But for some reason, the enemy has seduced our leadership, many in our leadership ranks, to sometimes spit out the words, do you? I will do me. And there were those who even have the audacity to say, my ministry, my ministry. The Almighty Father gave me this ministry. I will connect these words to the subject of the prodigal son and how these can be similar. You know, the prodigal son was one, and I'm going to read that passage in a moment. The prodigal son was one that wanted to explore, that wanted to do what he wanted to do his own thing, so to speak. Move according to the way he wanted to move. But before I read that story of the prodigal son, let me read 1 Corinthians 12, verses 12 through 20, my brothers and sisters. It says, for as the body is one and has many members, but all members of that one body, being many, are one body, so also is the Messiah. For indeed by one Spirit we are all immersed into one body, whether Yehudim or Greek, whether slaves or free, and we are all made to drink into one Spirit. My brothers and sisters, it is important for us to understand that the 12 tribes mentioned in the 7th chapter of Revelation will be recognized. And they will not just be recognized for in the blink of an eye or for a day or for a moment. They will fulfill or contribute towards the fulfillment of what is promised by the Almighty Father. So to ignore whether Yehudim or Greek fully would make it difficult to fulfill Revelation 7th chapter. But if you study the scriptures and search them out, you'll see that many members in one body, that we have an inward man, and that inward man is what will live forever. Our inward man is what will possess everlasting life. Our physical bodies will go back to the earth. So the inward man is not Yehudim or Greek. The inward man would be of the set-apart nation, the set-apart group under the banner of Yashar'al. Born again, set apart by the orders, by the plan of the Almighty Father. So when we look at the inward man, we look beyond Yehudim or Greek. When we look at the outer man, we must recognize how the Almighty Father created us. We must recognize who his chosen children were. We must understand what it meant by he went to the set-apart children of Yashar'al first, and then to the Greek or the Gentile. Some translations will say Greek, and some will say Gentiles. My brothers and sisters, if you study the scriptures, and if you've come to a point where you're learning, I pray that you know that ultimately it boils down to two nations fighting. The set-apart nation of Yashar'al, the set-apart children of Yahuah, versus the wicked one, or versus evil. There are no middle ground. So don't think it's just talking about Yehudim, period, and Greeks as in the European period. No, it's talking about a set-apart nation versus the wicked nation. A set-apart people versus those who have ways rebellious and contrary. But there are those among other nations that are drawn by the Almighty Father and are made one under the banner of Yashar'al. They do not physically turn into what some will call a Hebrew, but they become physically and spiritually united under the banner of Yashar'al as a set-apart nation. Let me continue to read. It says, for indeed the body is not one member but many. This is relative to what I started out by saying, someone saying, do me, you do you, and I'm going to do me, or my ministry. We are all of one body, and there's no such thing as I'm going to do me and you do you. We are either connected to the set-apart nation of Yashar'al or either the wicked one. It says it goes on to say, and I'm in the 12th chapter of 1 Corinthians, if the foot says, because I am not a hand, I do not belong to the body, does it therefore not belong to the body? It says if the foot says, this is just as someone saying, I'm going to do me. You do you. That's just as the foot saying, I am not the hand. I do not belong to the body. I submit to you, just because one say that doesn't mean they don't belong to the body. It say, if the ear says, because I am not an eye, I do not belong to the body, does it therefore not belong to the body? If all the body was an eye, where would be the hearing? If all the hearing, where would be the smelling? But now, the Almighty One, it says Elohim. I'm reading from the Scriptures versions 2009, my sword. And Elohim is plural for Almighty Ones, plural. But there is only one Almighty One, and that is Yahuah, who manifests his word in the name of Yahusha to identify the plan that he has for restoring us into life. It says, but now the Almighty One has set the members, each one of them, in the body, even as he pleased. So when I see Elohim, I will say the Almighty One, be advised. And it goes on to say, if they all had been one member, where would the body be? And now there are indeed many members, but one body. Let's come away from the I'll do me, you do you. Let's come away from saying my ministry when we belong to a body with many members with different functions. It goes on to say, same chapter, 1 Corinthians 12th chapter. Now I'm going to read 21 through 27. It goes on to say, and an eye is unable to say to the hand, I have no need of you. And again, the head to the feet, I have no need of you. There are those that will say, I didn't say I didn't have no need. I just said, do you, and I'm going to do me. What does that mean next time you hear someone say that? When someone say my ministry, ask them to define that and to point to scriptures that reinforce that they've been licensed to say it belongs to them. You see, my brothers and sisters, we have need of one another, from the least to the greatest, and let us not forget nor take it for granted. It says, but much rather those members of the body which are thought to be weaker are necessary. And to those of the body which we think to be less respected, these we present greater respect. And our unseemly members have greater seamlessness, whereas our seemly members have no need. But the Almighty One blended together the body, having given greater respect to that member which lacks it, that there should be no division in the body, but the members should have the same concern one for another. And if one member suffers, all members suffers with it. And if one member is esteemed, all members rejoice with it. And you are a body of Messiah and members individually. Yashar'al, oh Yashar'al. Keep this in mind as I continue with Prodigal Son Similarity, and I will bring the connection. I believe it is important to also present these words. In Matthew 12th chapter, 25th verse, one can read, and Yahusha knew their thoughts and said to them, every reign divided against itself is laid waste, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. Keep that in mind for those who are trying to divide and divvy things up. This is yours, this is mine, this is my ministry, you do you. That was the mindset of the prodigal son when he left home. But hear me out, my brothers and sisters. 2 Corinthians 6:16 says, and what union has the dwelling place of the Almighty One with idols? For you are a dwelling place of the living Almighty One. As the Almighty One has said, I shall dwell in them and walk among them, and I shall be their Almighty One, and they shall be my people. Yashar'al, my brothers and sisters, end times are here. The promises that the Almighty Father made to his children will be fulfilled. We will grow, we will be disciplined, refined, and grow into unity as we begin to come together. End times will prove the need for us to start moving closer to one another. For if you have like-minded individuals seeking to worship and obey the Almighty Father, like-minded individuals walking to reflect the spirit of set-apartness, then there's a degree of comfort. There's a degree of safety. Now allow me to pivot into the story of the prodigal son that I believe this message is relative to. So stay with me and be prayerful, my brothers and sisters. I believe the importance of this message will make sense. It may even lighten the burden, and it may even contribute towards improving our expectation of what lies ahead. Come with me to the 15th chapter of Luke. The 15th chapter of Luke, verses 11 through 20. For it reads, and he said, a certain man had two sons. This is a parable that Yahusha is speaking to his taught ones and the listeners who were before him. And the younger one of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of goods fallen to me. And he divided his livelihood between them. And not many days afterwards, the younger son, having gathered all together, went away to a distant country, and there wasted his goods with loose living. And when he had spent all, there arose a severe scarcity of food. Now keep in mind, it says spent all, and there arose a scarcity of food. And throughout that land, and he began to be in need. And he went and joined himself to one of the citizens of that country, and he sent him to his fields to feed pigs. And he was longing to fill his stomach with the pods which the pigs were eating, and no one gave to him. But having come to himself, he said, how many of my father's hired servants have bread enough to spare, and I am perishing with hunger? Having risen, I shall go to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against the heaven and before you, and I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. And having risen, he went to his father, and while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was moved with compassion and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. The prodigal son heads back home. Let's continue. Verses 21 through 32. I'm still in the 15th chapter of Luke. It goes on to read, and the son said to him, Father, I have sinned against the heaven and before you, and I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servant, bring out the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and sandals on his feet, and bring the fattened calf here and slaughter it, and let us eat and rejoice, because this son of mine was dead and is alive again, and he was lost and is found. And they began to rejoice, and his older son was in the field, and when he came and approached the house, he heard music and dancing. And having called one of the servants, he asked what this meant. And he said to him, your brother has come, and your father has slaughtered the fattened calf, because he received him back in health. And he was wroth and would not go in. So his father came out and pleaded with him. See, the older brother's upset. Why are they doing all that for him? He was gone. He coming back. And say, in answering, he said to his father, see, these many years I've been serving you, and I have never transgressed the command of yours. But when this son of yours came, He has devoured your livelihood with whores. You slaughtered the fattened calf for him? Then he said to him, Son, you are always with me, and all I have is yours. And when he had to rejoice and be glad for your brother, and we had to rejoice and be glad, for your brother was dead and is alive and was lost and found, and now he's found. If you paid attention, my brothers and sisters, and I'm not saying whether you did or didn't, but I would encourage you to look back at what I just talked about, and you will see that the prodigal son faced scarcity of food. He faced famine. He faced need. And when he became broken down or physically weak and in need, he went back home to his father. The older brother was jealous, which his perception was distorted. He should have been glad that added one more to the fray of the family, one more that can attest to the favor that the Almighty Father has given them in their households. Let me ask this, my brothers and sisters. Do you believe the Middle East was once considered part of Africa? Now you might say, wait a minute, you was talking about prodigal. Hear me out, my brothers and sisters. I will connect and present the similarity. I submit to you the Middle East was part of Northeast Africa. Have you ever wondered why so many African maps, jewelry, earrings, trinkets, maps, embroideries, silkscreen, have you ever wondered why so many cut off the Middle East? Could they be trying to hide Northeast Africa from the children of Yahuah? And even among us, my brothers and sisters, there are individuals that would tell you the promised land is in Sub-Saharan Africa. And they look at the Middle East as being a desert. They fail to discern that when Yahusha came before us and the teachings that pointed us to the Almighty Father Yahuah, that it was Yahuah, the Spirit of Yahuah, that scattered Yashar'al for being rebellious. In other words, Yashar'al wanted to do their own thing. They wanted to do them. They wanted to run their ministry. They wanted to do as they saw fit. And I submit to you, if you search out the scriptures, my brothers and sisters, you will see when the Almighty Father sometimes brought punishment to Yashar'al, he let them experience the fruit of their rebellion by allowing famine, pestilence, disease to come before them. You see, when the physical body is weakened and in need and starvation, man is willing to even sell themselves into slavery versus facing physical death. If you doubt that, visit Genesis 47 chapter, specifically the 19th verse, when they offered themselves up as slavery because they were in need. Now getting back to this Africa, I prayed because I heard some brothers say, there's no way the Middle East, it's a desert. There's no way that's the promised land. And I prayed and I prayed. And I looked at the evidence presented before me and I prayed some more. And I believe he who has been guiding me through these many decades made clear the promised land is between the Nile and the Euphrates River, not Sub-Saharan Africa. And I believe that the Almighty Father, like a movie, he showed me that Yashar'al was stubborn and rebellious, and they was like saying, fighting, you're not going to scatter me, you're not going to scatter us. And in their rebellion, the Spirit of the Almighty Father Yahuah came to me in words mentioned by the Spirit of Yahusha. For Yahusha being the word of Yahuah, made plain that he allowed the land to become barren and mostly desert land because he told Yashar'al they would be scattered and they were stubborn. But when the land became barren, they moved. They moved throughout parts of Africa and throughout the four corners of the earth. But do not doubt that the Almighty Father cannot restore that region and make it bountiful and plentiful. That region where the true set-apart mountain, which is commonly known as Jabal Allah's rest, it is in the northwest quadrant of what is called Saudi Arabia. And I contend with you, O Yashar'al, that that is northeast Africa. And that is within the borders of the true promised land. And as the Almighty Father even began to show us how he's restoring parts of the desert. If you research, it wouldn't take too much research to discover that there are rivers popping up in the deserts. It wouldn't do too much research to see that there's even a spring springing up in the trunk of a tree. You see, my brothers and sisters, the Father, the Almighty One, his Spirit is proving to us that he can restore a land. He can make a desert plentiful. If you doubt that, then how can we believe that he created the heavens and the earth, my brothers and sisters? Can one conclude that the wicked one will try to hide our home, the promised land? Now you might say, okay, so what? The prodigal son went back home. He knew where home was, and he went back to where his father was. And I submit to you, O Yashar'al, scriptures that talk about a final exodus. Some call it a greater exodus. Those who understand that we will be gathered from the four corners of the earth and return back to the land that was promised us. Those who will discover why the Almighty Father adamantly told Yitzhak, commonly known as Isaac, in Genesis 26 chapter, do not go into Mitzrayim. Some versions will say Egypt. And if you study the scripture, you will understand that Egypt and Mitzrayim represents the land of bondage. And I submit to you the land that the Almighty Father scattered us to reap the fruits of our rebellion became lands of bondage. If you doubt that, look at Deuteronomy 28 and look at how we scattered across the four corners of the earth and how we've been mistreated by the world. And you will see, O Yashar'al, that it has brought conditions like with the prodigal son when he was in need and hungry. And he began to trek back home. I submit to you that Yashar'al in these final days will be gathered from the four corners of the earth, and we will go back home. We will go to the land that is promised us. And if you visit Jeremiah 44th chapter, you will see it's reiterated. Do not go into Mitzrayim. Do not go to the land of bondage. And I submit to you the boundaries outside the promised land is the lands of bondage. The promised land is a land he's given to us to nurture us, to bring us and to improve worship and service to him. Yashar'al, my brothers and sisters, if we only realize that just as the prodigal son knew his way home, we will learn our way home, and we will know the difference between Sub-Saharan Africa or the continent versus the specific borders of the promised land in the days ahead. I submit to you, my brothers and sisters, the prodigal son wanted to be free to do what he desired. Similarly, Yashar'al became rebellious, which also can be stated that they wanted to do what they desired, as I mentioned. So you, O Yashar'al, some of you might say, I've heard enough. I don't need to listen to this long message or the rest of this message. That is your prerogative. I will present as I am compelled, and to those who are thirsty and hungry, to grow and fill their cups with knowing and discerning the voice of the Spirit of Yahuah, growing to discern the desires of the Almighty Father. I believe if you listen to this from beginning to end, it will strengthen your walk. Let us visit Deuteronomy 28, 15 through 25. Deuteronomy 28, 15 through 25. It reads, "And it shall be, if you do not obey the voice of Yahuah, your Almighty One, to guard, to do all his commands and his laws, which I command you today, that all these curses shall come upon you and overtake you. Cursed are you in the city, cursed are you in the field. Cursed is your basket and your kneading bowl. Cursed is the fruit of your body and the fruit of your land, the increase of your cattle and the offspring of your flocks. Cursed are you when you come in, cursed are you when you go out. Yahuah sends on you the curse, the confusion, the rebuke, and all that you set your hand to do, until you are destroyed and until you perish quickly because of the evil of your doings, by which you have forsaken me. Yahuah makes the plague cling to you until he has consumed you from the lands which you were going to possess. Yahuah strikes you with wasting disease, and with inflammation, and with burning, and with extreme heat, and with the sword, and with blight, and with mildew, and they shall pursue you until you perish. And your heavens which are over your head shall be bronze, and the earth which is underneath, which is under you, iron. Yahuah makes the rain of your land powder and dust. From the heavens it comes down on you until you are destroyed. Yahuah calls you to be defeated before your enemies. You go out one way against them and flee 7 ways before them, and you shall become a whore to all the reigns of the earth. There's more. My brothers and sisters, I'm going to pause with these slides. I have on each of these slides, and I'm going to fast forward, but encourage you to read the entire chapter 28 of Deuteronomy. As you can see, I advanced to verses 26 to 35. For the sake of time, I would encourage you to read them. One, we have different versions, so many different versions. Your words may be a little bit different than the words I'm reading, depending on what translation you're using. And as I advance the slide, you see 26 to 47. I basically presented all the verses in the 28th chapter of Deuteronomy. So right now, I am just advancing the slides to let you see. If you want, you can take the time and read it from the slides, magnified from your technology so that you can read it clear, and take your time. Moreover, my brothers and sisters, as I present these curses in Deuteronomy 28, and you can see there's more verses and even more. I have actually put on this message the entire 28th chapter of Deuteronomy. And what I want you to know is this. Oh, listen to these words. All the hardships and all the curses that were placed on Yashar'al because of our rebellion and disobedience was a result of us wanting to do me and telling you to do you, or saying this is my ministry, separating ourselves, fragmenting ourselves. But if you look around, all of the children of Yashar'al who are waking up and being drawn closer to the Almighty Father, look at how we've been treated. Look at how the curses have been upon us, and realize we are in need. And as famine and pestilence increase in disease, we will realize we will be in need of much comfort, protection, not to mention food and water. safety. And these are the factors that will motivate us to return home. Home to the promised land, the land which the Almighty Father has given us. You see, my brothers and sisters, there's a similarity to the story, the parable of the prodigal son, and our entire relationship with the Almighty Father, with Yashar'al being the son, many members of one body. And as I gradually wrap up, my brothers and sisters, I want you to realize that what has been promised by the Almighty Father, and I see I need to fix something here real quick. What has been promised by the Almighty Father is coming to realities. It's coming into view. Yashar'al was scattered. And rebellion brought about the separation. Just as the prodigal son wanted to do his own thing, wanted to do what he desired, and it brought about separation. Prodigal son returned, and the Almighty Father gave us the teachings that we can learn from the story of the prodigal son, so that we, as a set-apart nation, as the body of Yashar'al, consisting of the 12 tribes and the multitude of those drawn by the Almighty Father, grafted together as one by Yahusha, by his word, by his plan. I present to you, Yashar'al, we will return to the promised land and be reunited as a set-apart family, those who will be alive to witness and participate. Keep in mind, my brothers and sisters, there will be martyrs for Yahusha's name. There will be those left behind. And one might say, well, that's your opinion and different one's opinion. Study the scriptures, O Yashar'al. You may very well find and discover that your spirit is being stirred and prepared for movement. Let me just give you some excerpts of what I believe reflects something that will occur in the days ahead regarding the final Exodus. And there are those who will say, this literally mentioned a time that has already been fulfilled. And I will say to you that the Almighty Father never changes. And if he scattered Yashar'al and gathered Yashar'al before, so will he do again. Come with me to Isaiah 11:12. Isaiah 11:12. And it says, and he shall raise a banner for the nations and gather the outcasts of Yashar'al and assemble the dispersed of Yehudah from the four corners of the earth. That means it has to be a destination where he's assembling us. Do you think he would tell us the story of the prodigal son going home and not assemble us to bring us home? Reflect and pray on these matters. Ezekiel 11:17 reads, Therefore say, thus saith the Master Yahuah, I shall gather you from the peoples. I shall assemble you from the lands where you have been scattered, and I shall give you the land of Yashar'al. Do you think he's given us a different land? Did he change and he's given us a different land? No, my brothers and sisters. He's going to direct us, gather us, and bring us to the land that he promised. Because he made a promise to Abraham. He's not saying to Abraham, well, you resting, so I changed my mind. I'm going to send him to South Saharan Africa. No, my brothers and sisters. The very land that was promised to Abraham, we will witness, represents and reflect our home from a natural and physical perspective. There are many passages in scriptures that indicate that there will be a final exodus. I believe this is akin to the story of the prodigal son. Thus, the subject, Prodigal Son Similarity. Let me also provide something that adds to this message regarding returning to the promised land, my brothers and sisters. And if you're still with me, I salute your patience. And I pray that you're learning something that strengthens you, my brothers and sisters, that strengthen our expectations, that motivate us to draw closer to the Almighty Father. I mentioned Genesis 26 chapter, so I wanted to take you there. 26th chapter, And I want to read verses 1 through 5. Let me read them, O Yashar'al, and make sure we take heed. Do not run to the continent where there are 54 countries. There are individuals that's saying the continent, the continent, the continent. And the scriptures clearly say, do not go to Mitzrayim. I think Mitzrayim is the land of bondage, anywhere outside the borders of the promised land. I am compelled to believe that Mitzrayim, the lands of bondage, is also Mystery Babylon. You see, there are those who want to pigeonhole or box in that Mystery Babylon is only the United States. And some say, no, Mystery Babylon is here in wherever the original Babylon was in the Middle East. Yashar'al, Yashar'al. Mystery Babylon is all areas outside the promised land. And we will discover that the one world government, the anti-Mashiach and false prophet, will rule what's left of habitable places that are outside the boundaries of the promised land before they march, that final march against the set-apart children of Yahuah. Just think if you would have been following the advice of these groups of individuals that just say, just go to the continent. Look over there now and ask yourself what's happening. I'm not trying to make light of what happened in Libya, nor am I trying to make light of what happened in Morocco, nor am I insensitive to the fires that are burning across the world. But if you look at the scriptures, study the scriptures, you will see that ultimately the Almighty Father will draw us home. Just as the prodigal son reflected on what was at home and went back, we will begin to reflect where our home is and return. With that said, let's read Genesis 26, 1 through 5. It reads, and there was scarcity of food in the land. Do the scriptures talk about that in end times? Yes. Besides the first scarcity of food, which was in the days of Abraham, letting you know that it happened before. And Yitzhak went to Abimelech, sovereign of the Philistines, in Gerar. And Yahuah appeared to him and said, do not go down to Mitzrayim. Live in the land which I command you. Sojourn in this land, and I shall be with you and bless you. For I give you all these lands to you and your seed, and I shall establish the oath which I swore to Abraham your father. Now it said lands. We will discover that the promised land crosses the border of more than one country, my brothers and sisters, thus making it lands plural. He said, and I shall increase your seed like the stars of the heavens, and I shall give all these lands to your seed and all nations of the earth shall be blessed. Because Abraham obeyed my voice and guarded my charge, my commands, my laws, my Torah. Torah meaning instructions. You see, O Yashar'al, there's a promise made. There's a promise that will be kept. Now I want to take you also, I'm almost done, my brothers and sisters, to Jeremiah 43, 1 and 2. Jeremiah 43, 1 and 2. It says, and it came to be when Yahuah ended speaking all these words to all the people, all the words of Yahuah, their Almighty One, for which Yahuah, their Almighty One, has sent him to them, that Azariah, son of Hashiah, and Yohanan, son of Kara, and all the proud men spoke, saying to Yirmiyahu, you are speaking a lie. Yahuah, the Almighty One, has not sent you to say, do not go to Mitzrayim to sojourn there. You see, they already forgot Genesis 26 chapter. They already forgot how the Almighty Father say, I've given you this land for a reason, the promised land for a reason. How soon they forgot. Go to Jeremiah 44, 12 through 14. And it reads, and I shall take the remnant of Yehudah who have set their faces to go into the land of Mitzrayim to sojourn there, and they shall all be consumed in the land of Mitzrayim. fall by the sword, consumed by scarcity of food. From the least to the greatest, they shall die by the sword and by the scarcity of food. They shall be an oath and an astonishment and a curse and a reproach. And I shall punish those dwelling in the land of Mitzrayim as I have punished Jerusalem by the sword, by scarcity of food, and by pestilence. And none of the remnant of Yehudah who have gone those that went into the land of Mitzrayim to sojourn shall escape or survive, lest they return to the land of Yehudah, to which they are longing to return to dwell there. Let's say longing to return. See, he didn't shift and change the location of the promised land. For they shall not return except those who escape. You see, even out of all that's going to happen, there will be some that will find favor and escape what he said would happen to those who go down to Mitzrayim. Beware, O set-apart family. There are those who are undiscerning. There are those who are telling you quite a few narratives that leads to their logic to say the promised land is Sub-Saharan Africa. Make no mistake, someone is wrong. Make no mistake, someone is going to end up dead, if not already, going into areas where tragedies are already occurring. So don't be fooled and seduced into thinking it's the continent, using your own rationale. Pray and understand that the Almighty Father does not change. And this is written in the scripture. They bear witness to the words I speak to you. It is written in Malachi as well as James that the Almighty Father does not change. Beware, O set-apart family. Do not be misled to go to South Africa or any other country in the Africa that we know it. Now, there will be intermittent movement as we journey back to the promised land. And I believe there will be set-apart chosen leaders that will act as guides. And I believe the power and might of Yahuah will be manifest before us, that will remove the obstacles, that will shut down the deceivers and the liars. They will receive, if they are indeed our brothers or sisters, they will receive the discipline. It may be a discipline that brings them into the fold of correction. It may be a discipline unto death. Yashar'al, my brothers and sisters, learn to vet and examine how to determine who's right, who's discerning the living voice of the Spirit of Yahuah that comes in Yahusha's name. The time is now to choose who you will follow or how you will lead as you believe you are guided. The time is now to make a decision of how you contribute towards the leadership, towards the guidance, towards the words that Abba Yahuah present before us. Abba Yahuah has given us many examples and lessons that can be learned. And one example is the parable of the prodigal son. Pray on this subject regarding Prodigal Son Similarity. Listen to it again, O Yashar'al. Rise up, my brothers and sisters. Yashar'al will gather, and we will witness a rejoining of a set-apart family to our home, to the land that was promised us. What say you, my brother, my sister, my family? So much that could have been learned, so much said, so much to gain from the story of the parable of the prodigal son to Yashar'al's return home, to a land where the Almighty Father promised there will be plenty. Watch the transformation of the promised land in the days ahead. If you listen to this message from beginning to end, I salute you. I thank you. If you receive anything that strengthens your expectations of what the Almighty Father has in store for his children, consider sharing, subscribe, like, consider listening to receive more information, for there is so much to learn, O Yashar'al. And I know it's not all about me, but I seek to do the will of the Almighty Father, and I will present what I believe he has given to me out of obedience to him, to his living spirit, that I believe has proved to dwell in me. Will I stumble and fall at times? Sure, we all will, for the flesh war against the spirit. We are informed of this in the scriptures. My prayer more than anything, O Yashar'al, is that we begin to discern the living voice of the Almighty Father Yahuah, which is manifest to us in Yahusha's name. I quote John 6:44 when it says the Almighty Father it is he that draws us to his word that is manifest. I quote 14:26 of John when it says he sent his set apart spirit in Yahusha's name. There's an order, there's a sequence of instructions and guidance and following the plan and recognizing the way the Almighty Father has laid out this walk. And I believe, without a doubt, O Yashar'al, things will be made clearer to those who thirst and hunger after true set-apartness, after the righteousness of the Almighty Father. And this will require discerning. This will require being as iron sharpened iron. This will require yielding and leaning into discipline, recognizing, making way for discipline, for judgment to begin at the house of Yahuah, to refine us, to perfect us, to wash away the wrinkles that may slow us down. Pray and watch, my brothers and sisters. So much to learn, so much together. If you receive these words, share them with others. On that note, I say to you, Shalom, my brothers and sisters. Shalom, my brother, my sister, my family.